You can click anytime. All right, it is 7 o'clock. I'm gonna, it's 7:01, a late start. Bring the meeting to order. I'm Don Berube, 135 River Road.
Mike Wayne, Select Board Rep.
Randall, 9 Edgewood Drive.
Garth Wiseman, 36 Tottenham Drive.
Longview Drive. Michael Otten, 3 Asa Drive.
Kip McDaniel, 117 Page Road.
Sandy Crystal, One Shoreview Drive.
Matt Monahan, Central New Hampshire Regional Planning Commission, filling in for the town planner position.
Brian Westover, assistant planner.
Perfect.
Harvey Hayes, record keeper.
All right, I see we got no minor modifications or consumption consultation. So we're gonna move to public hearings. Application 502-22. I hear,
I received an email from Jason Lopez of Keach Nordstrom. It says, please present this email to the planning board as a formal request to continue the public hearing for Sawmill Road to the next scheduled date. We will not be prepared to present complete information with review comments this week. Thank you.
okay,
So I'll make a motion to continue the hearing until June 16th.
favorite?
Aye.
Aye.
So if you did comment, had anything you wanted to address on it, we can hear it now, but.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you. All right, moving right along, number 2, Omar T and Nalia O. Chata. I think I hacked that pretty good. Site plan review for proposed 6,000 square foot building for motor vehicle sales and repairs, block 2, lot 92. 1426 Route 3A, continued from April 21 meeting. Come on up.
I'm Trevor with Meridian Land Services, representing the applicant. Everyone here, I think, is fairly familiar with the project. We just came from the somewhat wet site walk on Route 3A. Nothing materially has changed from the April hearing. We discussed the driveway location. We got to see where the building would be sited and the grades on site, which are probably the bigger challenges as far as development is concerned for the parcel. We've still got our septic and stormwater configured as they have been to this point. I think the only new items in relation to, I don't think were touched on at the last hearing, we have 2 waiver requests for landscaping requirements. One is for the street side structure landscaping, basically along the front of the building. And then the other is for screening of solid waste, the dumpster area, which we have shown up here. In regards to the dumpster area and that waiver request, the way the site's set up, it's the elevation difference from the roadway up to the site is such that it wouldn't really be visible from the roadway. Maybe if someone was in a very large semi-trailer, they may be able to see it, but and then the vegetation on the northern side obviously screens it from this abutter and most of the way coming down southbound on Route 3A. And then in regards to the front landscaping requirement along the front of the building, we just don't have the real estate to accommodate a planted garden bed, if you will, just given the narrow nature of the site, the need for an access aisle and then parking along the front. It would just restrict fluid movement of vehicles in and out of that area. So those are the 2 reasons for those 2 waiver requests. As far as outstanding items that were identified by Brian is in checklist items, we've addressed all of those, I think, with the exception of one, which is the state septic approval. That's still pending at this point. But we would request that would be a condition of the approval. And obviously the DOT permit is pending as well that I had previously noted. Does anyone have any questions for me as far as that's concerned? What I have for you at this.
Where was, I remember, I think you showed us last time, but where are the trees being planted?
They're essentially along here. So we have 6 total. We have them proposed red maples, basically kind of screening the stormwater. And then a couple more, along the front here, and they would be set down grade wise so that, the display areas for the vehicles would still be visible. Obviously, as the trees mature, they would be pruned and maintained, but that's what we were proposing there. And then obviously trying to preserve as much of this area in here as possible too. So.
All right, so you're gonna hide those cars.
We want to screen this. This is
Yeah.
that's and we could. There are other alternatives as far as I know arborvitaes are fairly common as far as screening tree, but the requirements are that it's a shade tree of some kind along the frontage. So
Salt on the road would wreak havoc with. Everybody.
Yeah.
Right, yes,
They would
evergreens.
last by 1 year and they'll be gone.
Right, yeah.
Yep. Maples are nice.
And I think the only other plan item that we didn't have at the last submission was a photometric plan for lighting. The only lights proposed are 4 wall-mounted luminaires, which would be shielded per the town regulations. And as far as the foot candles and illumination at the property lines were essentially at 0, along the right of way. And then there's enough of a dense buffer here. And then, as we get around here, it's all gonna, there's no anticipated light pollution from that standpoint.
So those are all down.
Downcast, yep, and cut off. They have shields that can be adjusted as needed. So.
I was gonna say, the back, you're gonna be able to get around the back of the building some. I see you're not proposing driveway, but I imagine
So
you'll have some access there, right?
I mean, not vehicle access.
No.
If there's storage or something, I guess the dumpster could even be shifted further behind the building. But right now we have essentially a drip edge, a crushed stone drip edge behind the building because the roof is peaked in the middle. So any water coming off the roof and any water coming down from the slope essentially is going to be captured in here and then conveyed out to the pond
So
there.
on the front side, I understand that you're tight on real estate, but are you're gonna have something, a little bit of a curbing before the building, something, so you're not,
So we have bollards.
is that all, this is gonna be
It's from-
bollards, that's?
Yeah, there's originally we had, I had looked at doing a sidewalk or just a walking area at some point, and it was so tight, this for this section here because we're up against the. Obviously there's a decent slope here that we're trying to tie off to as well, and I was trying to minimize the amount of.
So you'll end up
retaining
just
wall
doing
features
gutter
and all that. So
along the roof edge and
Yeah.
dropping to one side,
Mhm.
letting that run across the parking lot, basically, probably.
Yeah, this will run across down to there are 2 catch basins. So one will be, the main section of the parking will drain to a catch basin here, and then that'll go into the pond. And then this is a low spot as well on the right side of the building.
But the asphalt go right to the building.
Yeah.
What happens to the drainage on the south side of the building? It looks like there's a berm that kind of goes around the perimeter. So is there a plan that shows?
I'm talking over here. Or.
Yep.
So we have this graded such that it's gonna basically pitch in this direction. And there's gonna be essentially a break in the curbing at a point that will allow it to flow into the pond. I might not have that actually noted on here, but that's what we would do there. So
So Trevor, just to let you- I do have. you
Yes.
Sent me this afternoon. I've been trying to mirror you while you're doing
Oh,
it, but if
okay.
you need to get more detail, I can pull that up. and
Okay,
Zoom in if that
great.
helps you.
That's basically what we got going on.
What the building's gonna look like?
So I sent, did you get that email sent along?
I can't access that
Oh, no.
this laptop.
So I had showed a rendering last time. It's gonna be a sheet metal prefab building and color wise fairly neutral,
What's it?
tan or
Isn't it in the packet?
Is it in the packet?
It's not in the, well, at least it's not in mine, but it was in the PDF.
Oh, it's right.
might actually be left on the printer at work, but but neutral colors, tan, brown, the roof.
There we go.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is the general tenant configuration, and the applicant is still working, figuring out what he wants for man door locations, but the overhead doors are more or less set as far as that's concerned. And we will obviously have, the full architectural design plans for construction, but that's the approximate visualization of what it's going to be. And I believe the roof would also be sheet metal of some kind. So
What is about signage?
so there is a proposed a freestanding sign over here that Omer had indicated to me, 12 square feet on either side. We don't have a rendering of it at this point, but it would be, 2 posts and then, perpendicular to the street. It may, either side, we're still kind of working that out, but there would be some type of signage at the front.
Okay, but you're only looking at 12 square feet, it's like a 3x4.
Yep, 2x6, 3x4, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how will that be lit at all?
At this point, it would not be. I guess I would still have to work that out with him. If it were going to be lit, it would be something very, very small, minor uplighting. But in terms of hours of operation, I don't think it might not even be needed for what he's looking for. So. I mean, I guess the other signage that we have noted on here is obviously the wetland buffer sign that would be installed
Right.
every 50 feet along the buffer. I don't know, does the town have a placard or like a standard?
Yes, do we still have? I know.
The little round ones?
He had asked me about reordering them. so-
Yeah. So those would be provided, along that portion.
I think you get to buy them, but
Yes.
Hazardous waste.
No, nothing anticipated as far as storage of anything like that on site.
Motor oil, nothing.
I think everything he would have would be a small enough amount where it wouldn't be under 5 gallons, and it would be stored inside the building.
Okay.
And no 4 drains or,
No. I don't think it's necessarily like a full-on repair facility. I mean, he wants to have the ability do minor things, but I don't believe he's intending to have, hydraulic lifts and all this, like a Valvoline or something, if you will. It's not going to be that type of facility.
Is there any consideration on this? Just look at the way the roof was aligned right now. I'm also a big fan of solar and stuff like that. Is there any way to shift the roof the other direction? Because right now your roof is facing east-west, which, well, you could do something with solar, it makes it really difficult, whereas you have a massive roof space there.
Mhm.
And, right now people aren't doing it, but with
Yeah.
oil prices and things like that, we all know electricity ain't getting cheaper.
Yep. Agreed.
Just seems like you're looking at a building that's going to be designed for 20, 30, 40 years.
Mhm.
By the time you get there, people are going to be wishing they had something on the roof.
Yeah, that's something that I haven't discussed with him. It's definitely an option, but just given what he wants for a building and the way the lot is, just the narrow nature, we can't really, it'd be tough to orient the
Oh,
building.
no, I realize that. It'd be kind of odd where now you have the roof, but actually almost work better in some ways because you have a much longer stretch facing
Yeah,
north-south. Yeah, it would put the peak facing toward the road, but it'd be a
Right.
different look.
yeah, you're saying, yeah, the peak would be here.
The same way, but
Yeah.
now you have a 50-foot by 60-foot facing
Mhm.
as opposed to what you have right now, which is a 30-foot by 100-foot facing.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, I can definitely discuss that with him. And it hasn't come up at this point, but it is a good option. My wife and I actually just did solar on our home, so and we're loving it. But it could definitely be discussed. But
I don't know what his energy uses are, but it seems like one of those.
It definitely keeps the light bill down.
yeah, sure.
You stuck a bottom, your roof, didn't you? Yeah.
Yeah, in our building, I mean, which is 15,000 square feet.
Yeah,
Our light bills are a couple $100 a month.
yeah. That's up quick.
Well, I mean, compared to when the bill was half the size
Yeah.
without solar and, there was $1,000 of solar.
Mhm. Yeah.
So what are you doing inside the building?
So it's storage and maintenance of vehicles, and then he purchases vehicles from, I think, the Northeast. He does collect as well, but it'd be storage, minor repairs, and then the sales piece to it as well. There's going to be an office portion of it, and kind of like file storage and things like that as well. And then the majority of it would be a workspace.
You're looking at 3 overhead doors. So you get 2 overhead doors.
Yeah. And he actually spoke to me about this recently. I didn't have time to update the plans, but
There's a-
my guess. What?
On the shelf in the orange handle there. You want to telescope that out if that'll help you any?
Look at that.
My guess is there is going to end up being an overhead door on this side as well. And then again, he's working on the location for the man doors, but typically it's, overhead and then a man door on, 3 feet off the edge of one side. Would end up being configuration there. So,
The little dots on the parking done it.
here
Oh,
is what you're talking about here.
Yeah.
So these are just like asterisks to denote what spaces would be for like displaying vehicles
For sale.
for sale.
Yeah, okay.
So like not for parking or anything like that.
well, that's good.
Nope.
It just says a public hearing. So we'll open the public. Anybody in the public got questions, comments? With that, I'll close the public hearing. I lost my room.
You lost
I didn't get my gavel.
Oh, no.
Um, And this is,
2 waivers.
we got 2 waivers. Tackle them.
I don't have the staff report to have the waiver numbers, but I move approval of the 2 requested waivers for the Article 15, a side street structure landscape strip, and site plan review regulations, 5.02Y aesthetic design standards. And then site plan review regulations, that's also Y, and for the, what was the strip?
Screening on a dumpster.
Oh, that's right, the screening on the dumpster.
Yep.
Second.
Favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Yeah, I have.
So I'll move approval of application 201-22. Site plan review for proposed 6,000 square foot building for motor vehicle sales and repairs.
Second. We all put a condition on that, that they receive the appropriate septic.
Septic approval and DOT permit,
A driveway permit, you're saying.
driveway permit, right, yes.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? There we go.
Thank you guys for your time. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you. Good luck, project. Okay. Moving right along, application 404-22. Kaylee Bartlett and Stephen McCauley, wetland protection conditional use permit. For a total of 3,450 square feet of wetland buffer impact for construction of pool, patio and cabana, block 3, lot 143Q, located at 10 Salt Marsh Circle. If we didn't get to have a sidewalk, because something got screwed up, but. Okay. All Brian's fault.
Thank you very much. My name's Alden Boschman from Keelan Enterprises. I'm a private land consultant, septic designer, wetland scientist. And I'm here tonight on behalf of my clients, the audience, Callie and Steve. I have some amended plans from put together to address the issues that the Conservation Commission bring up. You can pass those around that way.
Big paper.
Yeah, we don't usually get big paper.
Just grab a chair over there.
Put together a narrative.
Upside down to me since I've been halfway around the world.
I think everybody got a copy of the application, correct? In your packet? Got a complete package. In case, I don't know if you folks are familiar with this site, you have an existing house. You'll notice there's an existing tree line. House itself was built about 20-something years ago. And at that point, the whole buffer requirement for the town was kicking in. So the lot was cleared way back when they built the house. The house was built. Backyard now, and you can see the limit of the tree line here. Around the edge, we have wetlands. The property's basically, got area wetland to the could be the west here, and it basically circles around and does something like this. I think it might even continue further, but in any case, it's a sizable wetland area. The only place for the pool is in the backyard. There was a above ground pool years ago. I believe the prior owner, I saw it on some of the aerial views from way back. And so all they're doing is they have a family, they've got some kids on the way and so forth. They've got one young one. And they would like to have an in-ground pool. The neighbors are excited. They can't wait to come. They can't, the neighbors, if these folks put in a pool, nobody else has to in the neighborhood. They all come over here. So there's a lot of support in the neighborhood. You'll notice, and you probably saw in your packet, there was a aerial view again that showed the whole lot. You can see that it's been grassed for some time. I've got some recent photos. This is just showing the nice backyard. It's obviously vegetated very nicely, so that's looking from the wetland towards the house. And then I have one more photo. This is looking from the back of the house towards the woods and the wetlands. As a result of the meeting the other night, there was some good discussion. The Conservation Commission was concerned about discharging into the wetlands. And so to address that, we actually put a note right on the plan. We added it to a block of notes here where it says construction and conditions. Number 6, proposed pool with vinyl lining shall not discharge any chemically treated water into the adjacent wetlands. Should the pool ever need to be drained for repairs, all water shall be pumped into a tanker truck and properly disposed off-site. Other things that we did as a result of the meeting, we realized that, obviously we are impacting the buffer. And one of the best things we can do, obviously, to help mitigate the effect is this area around the pool between the proposed fence, which is this line here, and the patio. We will actually take and fill that in with a layer of 8-inch beach pebble and round stones to encourage infiltration and to prevent any wetlands. Obviously, the patio itself will increase some runoff. So if there is any increase in runoff, we've mitigated it by putting the stone. And obviously, there's a nice fence that will be around it for safety. No kids in the neighborhood can get into the pool without going through the proper gate. The Conservation Commission asked me to show the areas very poorly drained. The wetland itself is primarily forested, poorly drained wetlands, but there's a few pockets very poorly drained here and here. And so at the end of the day, I looked at how, the different setbacks that you have for buffers. And at the end of the day, no matter how you figure it, it all overlaps in the whole area basically.
The whole area is in a buffer.
It is. And so, but, it is what it is. And it's been grass for years. And so if you take a look at the narrative itself, I basically put together some key points to justify the application. The proposed a house in an area of existing lawn and will not affect the adjacent wetlands in any way. As I discussed, any possible increase in runoff has been mitigated by adding an 8-inch layer of beach pebble round stones for infiltration around the perimeter of the pool to prevent runoff. B, and these are all points that are in your application. B, the degradation of the wetland buffers and adverse impact to functions and values of the wetland/buffers are minimized by following proper construction and erosion control procedures. And I outlined briefly what those are. A lot of this stuff was in my wetland report that I had prepared. But basically, 1, any disturbed area should be minimized by placing excavated fill outside the buffer area. Number 2, all site grading shall be restored and stabilized with bark mulch or flat seed if necessary. Number 3 just makes it, just reiterates to the contractor that they are to follow best management practices for erosion. Stepping down on number C, areas of the proposed buffer are at least 200 feet to any downslope of butters. So the slope, it all slopes to the rear. And you can see the rear property line is quite a ways. So when you do measure it, basically there's a good 200 feet plus. D, proposing ground pool is in the approximate area of the previous above ground pool and is sited in the only area suitable. This lot here, there is a front yard, but we have a septic system and that's state approved. The approval numbers on the plan, wells in the back. There really is no other place. Maybe you could do something way out in the woods, but
Who wants a pool out there?
yeah, out in the dark, deep woods. So this area here is plenty of sun and it's perfect for.
This is, Bo, we build pools on other people's property all the time here.
Well, I'm sure the neighbors wouldn't mind,
Mr.
but
Chairman, if I can, say that pool that was shown in that 2010 photo, there was not a permit ever issued for that pool.
Okay.
So just to let you know, that was.
awesome.
That never happens.
E, no additional federal or state permits are needed for disturbance to wetland buffer. The buffer requirement isn't a state requirement, it's a town requirement. And also you'll notice when I attached to the second page, I was asked to check NHB data check under the natural heritage area to see if there were any endangered species. And there were no endangered species of concern.
None living in the lawn.
What?
None living in the lawn.
Well, that, but even.
Well, even in the vicinity.
Yeah, in the vicinity,
Yeah.
yep, so that was easy, and that, I attached that as well. So overall, given the impact of the pool with patio and cabana, there is no compromise or impact on the functions, values, or conditions of this important wetland resource as the results of this proposed project, as also noted in my wetland report dated April 10th. Questions?
I have a question. So like just looking at this aerial photo here, it looks like there's a bunch of disturbance at the tree line there.
Yes.
And then there also looks like there's a whole bunch of trees,
Logs,
logs
yeah,
that were cut there.
Yeah.
So when I saw that in the packet, I jumped to Google Earth and just did like a time lapse of
yeah,
recent photos. And as early as 2018, it looked like the yard was about half as big as it is now. So I heard you just describe that it had been like that forever.
yep.
So I was hoping you could maybe comment on that.
Yes, yes. So for the most part, there was some trees taken down. It was my understanding that they were dead. And so they cleaned up some of this area to the rear, but we're not even getting near that. We're way back towards the house.
The 2015 photo, that's
The one that you had?
one that's shown on the screen up there right now, that's 2015.
Uh-huh.
And the other one has the 2010, which was taken when leaves off season. It shows that pool that was installed. The current photo we have, I believe, is 2019 or 2020. I'm not positive on the
I
year.
mean, really, from that to the 2010 one,
What's that?
can you go back to the 2010?
Yes. So the difference on the 2010 one, we use this a lot because it was taking the leaves off, so it doesn't really pick up
It was
the
taken like
hardwoods as much.
November.
So.
Yeah.
I mean, it's possible, but at the end of the day, and I think your
I
buffer
mean, it's not-
requirements allow you to take out dead trees, but
Technically, you can remove the trees in a wetland buffer. You can't disturb the
The soil.
soil,
Yeah.
so you
Yeah.
can't stump, but you can put the trees in a buffer.
you allow them to grind them? Are they allowed to grind them?
No, because disturbing the soil once you get down to the grind.
So you could cut to the soil level.
Correct.
Other questions?
Well, a couple of things. I appreciate the changes you made.
Yeah.
From the Conservation Commission concerns that were raised. I guess there are two things. One is the buffer line should still be shown on the plan.
Yeah.
Even if it's covering
Yeah.
pretty much everything. So I would suggest that whatever goes forward, that we have a plan that has the buffer on it. And then I would also suggest that you put some notation regarding, that you either only do any of the wetlands so many feet in the back, Because otherwise it looks like the whole back is all wetland.
No, that's a really good point. In fact, I do that sometimes. I just put a note limit of
Right,
wetland.
delineation, right,
No,
yes,
no,
that would be good.
Oh, I appreciate that. Oh, that's a good point.
The one other concern I have, I know that you mentioned, it's all lawn, but I think if we're going to consider approving something like this in a buffer, I think we need to kind of get something from the landowner in terms of improving what's there. And so I would think that planting some native vegetation, perennials or whatever along the,
Outside of the fence.
beyond the stone wall in terms of the house side of the stone wall, the lawn side of the stone wall, to really have some native vegetation.
Yeah,
Planted or-
how much of a buffer or strip are you thinking? Would a 10-foot strip be enough?
Yeah, I think 10 feet.
You're thinking right along here and then maybe down?
Right.
Okay.
And actually even, some of the low, and it's really interested in native plants, native shrubs.
Yeah.
Shrubs or native perennials.
So where there's lawn now.
And
Is that what
where
you're
there's
saying?
one now, right.
Yeah, no, she's basically, would like to take and obviously bring back some of the buffers, so, yeah.
I mean, it could also be not mowed and allowed to go naturally too. That would be a possibility, but I don't know how
Yeah, no, I think I could work that out with the property owner. I think, something nice would really enhance backyard as well, so.
and minimize the bark mulch.
Right, right.
Because that doesn't really help things grow.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is a public hearing, right? We're here for final approval. So if anybody's got any comments or questions from the public, now's the time.
I would just like to.
Can you state your name and your address?
Molly, I'm the homeowner.
Okay.
This is my wife Kelly. We actually brought, because we did know that you guys didn't get a chance to do a site walk.
Yep.
So we brought the direct butters with us just to show that they can speak if they want as well. But I just want to, I guess, let the board know that we purchased this home in 2008, end of 2018. This is our dream home. This is where we want to live. We want to live in Bow because of the school district. She's from Concord, I'm from the seacoast. We bought this home, she fell in love with it. As there's no reason or no logic to disclose wetlands in New Hampshire, as far as I know. We had no idea. We thought we were buying our dream house. We planned on putting a pool in and raising our family there. So that was our reasoning for buying this property. And then obviously we're running it. We came here in March and found out, oh my gosh, I talked to Mr. Westover and we live in the wetlands. Had no idea what we had at that time.
The wetland
On a
buffer.
bow.
Wetland buffer.
Yeah,
And of course, with the COVID and such, we purchased this pool 2 years ago to be able to get on a list to be able to get a pool. So we had to put a deposit down, which is many, several $1,000s. So we're trying to be as, very responsible, and obviously we want to protect the environment as well. We bought this house because it's in the forest. We love the trees. We have the Robinson Trail in our backyard. It's nothing better than that. The last thing we want to do is destroy that or bring it to a different level. We just want to raise our family and have a nice backyard. So I would just like you guys to take that into consideration when you're voting for this. Thank you.
anybody else have any comments?
I'll just introduce myself as
Sure.
the butter on the left as you look at the screen. Steve and Kelly have done nothing but make improvements to their property as far as I'm concerned since they've been there. Just as a tidbit, my yard's as dry as can be. It'll be bone dry tomorrow. If you look at my lawn in the front, you can see what I'm talking about. No problem with water or wetlands on my side at all. And I fully support what they want to do. My name's Gary Anderson.
Thank you.
Gary's been twisting my arm. He wanted to make sure we put a gate on his side of the lot.
Oh,
So he has easy access.
From Mike and Nikki Habib, and we are the abutters on the other side. And, Steve and Callie are great neighbors. They've talked to us about their plans since the day they moved in. This is the home where they had their engagement party, where they got married in the backyard. And we've talked about the fact that they wanted to put a pool in since literally the day they moved in. And we fully support them putting this pool in their backyard.
thank you. Just have for show or?
They can have
Okay, with that, I'm gonna close the public hearing. I mean, I don't have a problem with somebody putting a pool in. I put a pool in my backyard 3 years ago. I don't have the wetlands and the issues, but it's a wonderful thing. The only thing I would say is I did a fiberglass pool. More money than, but maintenance is zero. Anybody else on the board got any comments?
No.
Concerns?
Maybe you know, Sandy, how does it work? Saline versus, because they're talking about chemicals and so forth for a wetland somewhere to leak. Is saline better than chlorine, or are they 6 1/2 dozen
No,
better?
in fact, I had given Alden, and I have copies of this, it's called a sampler from DES, and it talks about pools and their discharge and whatever. That's why I know, that's why you would put in, Alden had put in the statement about no discharge of treated water and stuff like that. But salt water is definitely worse. You know, we all have, the issues with chloride are only increasing between treated roads and the saltwater brine from water softeners. You know, there's just an issue, and chloride doesn't go away.
So with the treated water, you know, with it running chlorine, you know, I know with having a pool, you know, in the spring, when you go to open it, it's, you know, either you're gonna, you know, put some in or take some out normally. And at that point, like the water, there is no
Right, if it's
chlorine left,
chlorinated, you can discharge.
and then you can discharge. So that is part of the question of, you know, of when, you know, that's the times that it's gonna go. So literally a
As long
pool,
as it's a freshwater pool. If it's a saltwater pool,
It's a
then
different
there are
story.
other.
but in a freshwater pool, I mean, if you don't put chlorine in for a week or so, the chlorine's burnt off.
Right,
So ideally, if that point, I mean, would that,
right. You would want, right. you
You'd
would
want the
wanna
chlorine level to
dechlorinate it.
be-
You would want to check the chlorine
And at
levels,
that
and that's
point,
what the sampler article
they would be all
talks
right
about.
with,
Yes,
pumping
yes.
it out.
And I think, you know, having the rocks, or I think that there was, there's actually a culvert overflow, although you want to keep it as far away from the wetland as possible, but
I mean, would it be better infiltrating in the ground there
Yeah.
versus letting it flow?
yeah, probably. If
Yeah.
it's dechlorinated.
I know sometimes.
Well, their well is right there too. They don't want to contaminate that.
Yeah.
Right, right, yeah.
So that would be the bad part of my next suggestion was, I know sometimes, and even when I did my pool, they talked about, oh, you should put a dry well in for it to, you know, for when you do get a pump out, just so you don't have the runoff, because everything on the other side of mine's a hill and, you know, I get a washout issue.
Right.
You know, which I didn't do that dry well, but I didn't, you know, would that be better?
Well,
With that
we try and
wetland
do a
versus-
dry well here, and if it's too deep, you might end up having running
Because you're-
shallow groundwater.
Yeah. Okay. And I mean, as far as the natural vegetation on the end and giving them less lawn to mow, is that something that we are, you know, that you guys want to put on the plan? Are you
Yeah,
fine with
well,
that or?
Sandy had mentioned it, and I think we're okay with that, correct?
Can I talk? Okay. So we are planning to put in some vegetation. My plan isn't to eat up all the lawn, because we do want some place where the kid can play soccer or football and such, but where we're putting the cabana, we are gonna do some sort of buffer, natural vegetation, something that is more organic to this area. On that
I have to
right
take this.
side, we plan on going down there. And on the left side, it's wall. So we could do some maybe shrubs or bushes or something like that.
Oh, so you're saying, I have the plan turn a different direction. You're saying left and right.
Yes, oh, sorry, I'm looking at that, yeah.
Right.
Where the cabana is, it's all we're gonna do a whole bunch of natural hedges and
Yeah.
stuff like that.
See, the issue is that it's important to have it in the buffer. Not just in the buffer area, because right now the wetland edge is really near your stone wall or part of the stone wall. And to protect, it's not only to protect the wetland, it's also because wildlife uses both wetlands and these other adjacent areas. And so that's really where the vegetation needs to be versus up near the, structures.
So I guess what I'm saying is that whole right edge of the wetland buffer is gonna be brushes and such. And what you can't really see on this map is that there's a 4-foot wall, 4 to 5 foot wall that goes all the way up to almost 7 feet on that left side of the wetland buffer.
Well, I'm using the plan, so I do see the wall on the plan.
Okay, so I mean, that's some substantial height, but, so that's what we've been under.
Just for clarification, basically what we're talking about was.
That what the first call was, look, cleaning people at the stores. I didn't call them my brother because they called him. Somebody was banging hard.
Sandy was suggesting 10 feet.
The chief called the cops.
I
just sent my son over.
Pretty nicely somehow. That was fair.
Sorry about that. I had a quick emergency. So,
Ready for,
I'm sorry, I missed it. Yeah, I guess we're,
ready for a motion?
yes. Who wants to make a motion for us?
All right, I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion that we, where's the number? Oh, approve 404-22, the wetland conditional use permit. With, for the proposed pool and cabana with the following conditions. One is that an updated plan is submitted that shows the extent of the wetland buffer. Indicates the limits of wetland delineation. Also depicts a 10-foot strip along the wetland edge where native perennials and shrubs will be planted.
And can you also fix the legend? Nothing on there seems to match up with what's on the.
Right, yes, the legend, there are things on the legend that aren't on the
Yeah,
plan.
paved areas, there's the contour, 2-foot contour lines missing.
Yeah.
Property line doesn't match.
Okay,
stone wall.
okay, I appreciate that. Awesome.
I'll second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Bye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
Thank you very much.
Enjoy the pool.
Congratulations, enjoy.
Enjoy.
You made second?
Mike.
Take it easy. Old business.
I'm gonna turn this over to Sandy. I really need to go check and see what's going on there. I guess we should store that. They did call police, but it's.
Yeah, you gotta go check it out. Yep.
So I guess. Yeah. Cleaners are in there, they're in the store, they're scared.
Yeah, I don't blame them.
So,
Sandy has a gavel. We're needing a replacement.
Pass that imaginary gavel like that. Is the gavel in the?
It is.
Oh, good, we get- We get rid of a dog and immediately bring out the real gavel.
There you go.
Two gavels.
There's a gavel. All right. So should I just stay here or shall I move over there?
You're fine.
I'm fine. Okay. All right. So there's no old business. And we have for new business, request to build along a Class 6 highway on block 256, located at 79 to 89 Wood Hill Hooksett Road. That's you. Okay. Do you want to kind of explain? I know we have some.
Should
have some.
What's up?
Maybe not, never mind. Like, did you recuse yourself from this? Never mind. Sorry. I heard you wrong.
I'm Courtney Audette. I'm one of the property owners. I currently live at 318 Page Road, so I would just be moving to the other side of town. That is Preston Blair. He's the other property owner. He's moving back to town. So we are currently building on this lot. We're hoping to build on the lot, waiting on approvals for everything. And right now, the safest area to put in the driveway that'll do the least amount of change to the topography is actually on the Class 6 portion and not the Class 5 portion. There is currently already an approved driveway directly across the road. Elliot Berman lives there and he is maintaining the Class 6 portion up to his driveway right now. So we would go directly across from his driveway. We would split the maintenance 50% and the town would really have no responsibility.
We were talking about this earlier. So if somebody else maintains the road, the town's not responsible on that?
That is correct. It's a Class 6 town, I have no response. We talked about this at the
So
last select board meeting.
we're talking about it at dinner, just for a totally unrelated reason, but
Yes,
One of the questions I have is, and I can't remember where things change on the road. Isn't a portion of Wood Hill Hooksett Road impassable?
it gets really bad really fast.
You have to have a big old honking four-wheel drive.
Well, no, because I know that we had, actually, I think it got withdrawn. Because on a portion of, I thought it was Wood Hill Hooksett, there was somebody that wanted to come in to do a subdivision and
We bought their land.
So they're good.
They can't. That was the only lot still available and we bought all 28 acres and we put 24 into current use.
Right.
So there will be no subdivision.
Right, but I guess one of the issues, wasn't there some restriction on the lot? There was some restriction, I guess, maybe it can be used for one house or one
Well,
access.
did you put it in current use or did you put a conservation easement on it?
We have it in current use.
Okay, so it can, so it can be built on then. It's just you need to pay the taxes.
No, well, they put some of it in current use.
Yes, 24 acres is in current use, 4 acres is not.
And 4 acres is not, so they can build on the 4.
Well, they can build on the 24, they just got to pay the taxes to take
Right.
it out.
Well, but the issue was there had been a restriction on the property. And see, I don't think it was this property. I think it was a different property.
I know that back in the day, we abut Abbey Road and Colby Road, and those subdivisions wanted to continue to grow and purchase that property in order to essentially connect them.
Mhm.
And we cut them off at the pass because we don't want a subdivision.
Right, yeah, this is a different lot than the one I was looking at, because the other one was, there was no other access at all.
You all look at it here. Right here is where Abbey ends. And up there is where Colby ends. And somebody originally wanted to, come through and then make this Class 6, to change the
Mhm.
terminology of the Class 6, so it's more of a road. But Hooksett, Wood Hill Hooksett is a dirt road on this end. And on the Bobog end, I believe it's a dirt road too. I'm not familiar with that side, sorry. But in between
It's a dirt road.
Yeah, the class 6 is just hunters and,
Kids on,
dirt bikes or whatever's
Mountain bikes.
going through.
Yeah.
But, we want to put the driveway access directly across from the fire chief's access that.
it causes at least change to the topography. If we were to try to access it from the class 5, which if you'll look, there's a turnaround. That's our only access from the class 5. It's right there where the town is currently turning around. They're pushing snow. There's mailboxes there. It goes down steep and fast there, and there's actually wetlands back there that we could potentially end up disturbing if we go in that way. If we come in down on the class 6 portion, directly across from Mr. Berman's driveway, it's the least amount of
So
change.
his house is right there?
Yep.
Okay.
There's a pointer down there. on
Yeah,
the
right.
orange thing. if
Right
you
there.
want.
Oh, 10-4. I think it was, it's fine.
I'll be your point.
Oh, let's get mine too.
The other concern that we have is if we came in off the turnaround, it'll be,
It's pretty steep and pretty dangerous.
It's gonna be between $25,000 and $30,000 with material. And we will be disrupting
Wetlands.
everything. Coming in where his driveway is, and it was actually his idea.
Yeah, and it's down lower. That's the turnaround, so.
If we came in that way, you guys won't be able to
This-
turn your
It's
trucks.
his driveway, right in here.
Yeah, sorry.
So it would literally be directly across. It's a straight shot. It's almost flat there, so there's limited need to change things. But if we go in up at the turnaround, it's very steep. Again, there are wetlands that are back behind there.
What's,
Probably.
what's the situation with fire and emergency vehicles on the class 6? Because obviously it's self-maintained at that point. It's essentially you turn the class 6 into a driveway.
Yeah.
For all intents and purposes. Is there any issues with fire
Mr.
trucks?
Byrne brought it up, Elliot brought it up during the last meeting we had, and he says that there was no issue with getting the trucks down the road. The actual road itself was grandfathered in. I mean, there are some places that are only, 11, 12 feet wide because it's an old road. But on our end, it's a lot bigger, we're willing to do, whatever we got to. I think we're between 18 and 20 feet, and I believe the town requires 18 to 20 feet. Somebody told me that.
Could be 22.
No, I think Elliot had said 20. We measured it all
We
off.
went and measured off to make sure it's between, the narrowest portion is 18 and only because there's a big rock.
Yeah, and
It can be moved, but we're not touching anything until somebody says that it could be.
the
touched.
rock's on Elliot's side. So I mean, honestly, if it's got to be moved, I'm sure he's going to have no issues. Although he has said that he's had multiple equipment at his house over the past, I forget what he built his house, but it's been a while.
Mhm.
So should the, Madam Chair, so should the
Yes.
town select board approve it, then there is a requirement that they waive from the town any liability for emergency vehicles and such. It's required to be attached to the deed.
Correct.
So that's kind of the procedure. It's a
Yes.
liability thing for the town.
And I can spin through my. memo.
Okay, sure. Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah, so my memo, if you look at it, it's got the central at the top there. They pretty much hit on everything, right? So the meeting minutes from the selectmen meeting of the 10th. We touched on so the fire chief indicated, they'd still be able to get fire trucks in there. And like Brian is saying, one of the requirements is that there's a release document filed at the registry that's recorded by RSA, so they would need to do that. But it looks like they could still, the fire truck could still get there anyway. And then the other thing is that, like they did mention, the wetland and the fill is more of an issue up at the class 5 portion. I mean, that's really it for the most part, right? procedurally, you guys look at this. If you have any recommendations, you would kick them over to the selectmen for when they consider their vote on it, on their up or down vote. And that's really it. And when the selectmen get it back, they've got to do the release document, and there's just a requirement in the RSA that the town assumes neither responsibility for road maintenance nor liability arising from the road use. So it's really not a lot there. But anything you guys see, just pass on to the selectmen for their consideration.
And you will be getting a wetland delineation of at least the 4-acre part of the lot or something?
We have, right now, we don't have a wetland delineation. We've actually moved where we're putting the house permit wise and plan wise about 5 times to make sure that we're nowhere near wetland.
Madam Chair. Here's a separate design which shows area where the driveway.
Yeah, we have adjusted.
Oh, okay.
Where I want the house versus where the wetland says we want the house.
So we've been I've been working with the.
That's great.
So.
Yeah,
A small pocket of a wetland. Right here. And then there's this intermittent stream that runs.
Mm-hmm.
So this line. 75-foot
Right.
setback from that intermittent stream.
Mhm.
We asked them to push the house back at least 10 feet to
Okay.
allow for get in there to
Right.
put in the foundation. And so they adjusted it there. This here is the buffer setback from that small one, then going down to the stream. Each field's got to be 75 feet from any wetland. It's proposed at 76 feet from the closest one. And so
Okay, all right, good. Yeah,
all the,
that answers.
all the wetland.
Instead of getting, paperwork
And
saying,
trying to get,
we could, trying to push their variance or whatever, we just move the damn
we moved
house.
the house.
So it was easier for everybody. and
It wasn't there. It was easier to move the house.
Rather than fighting
And
about. a
trying to get an
permit.
easement and all that stuff.
Yeah,
so.
yeah, no, that's smart.
And two, just a quick point, if you looking where they're coming in, you got 102 and then 100 for the
Elevation.
contours right there. So it looks fairly flat at that location too.
Yeah, that was
That's
Excuse me.
the flattest.
from, this is the road here, from here to about the 102. It's all very flat and quite hard packed, so I'll break this, but it's fine. It will substantially save us a boatload of dough because we won't have to worry about digging out soft and, bringing in all the material to make it a hard driveway. The earth has actually made it for us.
Mhm.
So, or somebody did.
Right.
Yeah. It's an old logging trail. It looks like back in the day.
Yeah, but this was all farmland at one point. This is pretty much where they would bring in their rocks from the fields and kind of
Pile it in.
build their stone walls and enjoy it. So the driveway was their access way, and it's just easier than to fight with the land and just go with it.
Do you have identified a potential well location?
Yep.
Yes, it's
Just.
right here.
Oh, right,
With
okay.
a 75-foot radius. It doesn't hit the road at all. And it stays away from
The septic.
septic or leach field, excuse me.
Right.
Yeah, that's where we propose it. And ironically, the well trucks, you can't really see it on pictures, I get it, but there's ledge here,
Mhm.
ledge here, and the well truck can literally back in, do his thing and pull out.
Mhm.
Easy peasy.
Good, okay.
And I'm only pointing because I'm taller.
Yes.
Likes to lord that over me.
Yeah. Right. If I want to have any more questions or want to make a motion?
Or if you had any recommendations for the select.
I don't know technically we need a motion.
I don't need any.
No.
more of a recommendation.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
But my only thought, just knowing how things creep in this town, and so that's why I asked the question earlier is, if you're willing to put conservation easement on those 24 acres or something like that, then essentially you've taken away anybody's ability to build. With the
Current use.
where it is right now, somebody simply has to pay like the last 5 years unpaid taxes, and then you can do whatever you want with it.
10% of the fair market value.
Yeah.
Well, it's 100% of my value is we're not building anything else other than this house.
So I realize that, but if you were to sell it somewhere
We're
down
not
the road.
selling. We're gonna die there and you bury it.
What I'm saying is, if you did that, you get nice tax write-off too.
Yeah.
But as I say, you're essentially forcing forever, nobody can build there on that with the conservation, just something to, as I say, think about, but also.
We're surrounded by the conservation land that's further down
Yeah.
this road.
Right.
And if the day ever came that we could no longer handle it and keep it protected, then we would take precautions as such as that, as handing it to conservation land, because don't want anybody going in there.
Yeah, just saying, the reason I say this is property does change hands and so forth, and looking at it where you're coming in off a class 6 road with a driveway, if somebody suddenly managed to, I know you're saying it never will happen, but the fact is it does. If somebody acquired that, you now have 24 acres of, let's put 12 2-acre lots out there off of this
There's no way
driveway.
they will.
Yeah, they
Nothing but wetlands out there.
Madam Chair, well, if I can address that. For years now, I've been approached by developers to do that loop thing, and it's just not feasible for what between ledge, steepness, slope, wetlands.
Also, the orientation.
I'll never say never, but it is.
Highly
There's
improbable.
legitimate streams that go all
It would have been
through there.
built already if there was a way to connect those. It would have been done when those roads went in. It's just that.
Abby and Colby, yeah. Absolutely.
I just think of it, if it's a way to kind of cap off anybody's ability to add more stuff on there, because then the next 500 feet of the road is
Yeah,
useless.
all right.
So,
Well, I guess the thought is someone makes a motion to have a recommendation.
Yeah, you could,
Yeah,
recommend
yeah,
for,
so-
motion for recommendation.
Make a motion to recommend to the select board that they approve the allowance of a driveway off of the class 6 portion of the road. I don't have the exact distance, but as defined on the maps provided by the applicant, which is approximately across from a driveway currently off of that same class 6 road.
Second.
Okay,
Hopefully that makes
all
sense.
those in favor?
We probably need
Aye.
another vote. don't we? We need someone else to replace Don.
Oh, okay,
All right.
okay, yeah, so we need another person.
So I think technically you would replace him, right? And then maybe Kip would replace you.
Yeah, and then was Garth, were you
I'm a regular.
recusing? Oh, you're regular. No.
Somebody told me I was recused.
I thought that was what.
But I refuse to recuse.
All right, so,
Okay, if that's a budding somehow, I don't know how it got
all
there.
right, so I guess Kip will vote for
Okay.
as well. So all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstention?
Okay,
All right, fantastic. Thank you so much.
you're welcome.
You're welcome.
We have to go back to the select board now.
Yeah.
Good luck with your plastic road.
I just do what she says.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for all listening to us tonight, guys.
Have a good evening.
I didn't have time to add it to the agenda. Email from Eric Mitchell regarding the Brown Hill subdivision. They came in, I believe, in March for conceptual consultation, 6 lots.
Mhm.
They came in, mostly talked about site distance. They want to know if the planning board would be willing to do a site walk to look at site distance prior to receiving an application. To my knowledge of 20-something years, we have never done a site walk in which we didn't have an application.
My biggest concern on that one, we're talking about here is that whoever built the house, when you're going in on the right-hand side, it is 6 inches from the edge of that property. And the neck going in there is about 10 feet wide. So this road literally is going to be almost running through someone's living room, going into these 6 lots that happens to be there. I mean, so I don't mind doing a site walk. I don't know if there's a reason to do it ahead of time. I think usually the application comes in, otherwise it's.
My guess, just reading into this, is that I think the applicant wants to know, is the site distance gonna be a game over if they can't meet? Because it sounds like they can't meet the distance portion of site walk. So they wish to go with the speed limit type safety site
Right,
distance.
that's what he was discussing.
So they're thinking if they can't get that site distance approval, looking for probably some head nods at the site visit, then they may not
Okay.
go. I'm just guessing.
Me personally, I have no problem because unlike Page Road where everyone drives 10 million miles an hour, on that section of Brown Hill, if you're going much over the speed limit, you're in the woods or something because it twists, it winds, it's a steep downhill. And plus, he thought it was 35. It's actually 30 miles an hour on that road. So he had that wrong right from the get-go when he came in. So I personally, for someone who lives around the corner practically, would have no problem.
But I don't think you can have
But
a sort of nodded approval before you've even brought
Right.
the item on the agenda.
But at the same time, I think that lot has a lot of, I don't think sight line for 6 houses there is a problem. I think there's a lot of other problems with that lot, but that's beside the point.
So just a suggestion, if you guys did consider doing that, treat it as a conditional. So when it goes on the agenda, call it a conditional because it's conceptual. Yeah, thank you. Because they're non-binding by you guys. So technically you're not acting on a waiver. You're just kind of, hey, brainstorming, kicking it around like any other conceptual. It's just that instead of the tax map, it's around. So that's how I would suggest if you did it.
So put it on the agenda as a conceptual,
If you wanted to, yes, yep.
just verbal, not hard documentation.
There's no binding,
It's up non-binding.
Either.
yeah.
the applicant or the board would be anything that said would be binding.
So we would make that perfectly clear.
Yeah, what I would do is just put right on the agenda in what is it, RSA, whatever, conceptual consultation in accordance with RSA, blah. Then you get your clarity there so that
Yeah.
they know, we're not voting on your waiver
Right.
request here. There's no application. This is a
Right.
conceptual, walk and talk.
Do a conceptual like that, do they have to provide notice and everything else to all abutters?
Hearing, so yeah, it's just a public meeting of the planning board.
It would, the public meeting would be posted, and we would post it that it's, a site visit, like.
But there's no requirement to notify butters or newspaper.
I guess I would think that, well, there's no requirement if we do, because if we go out there and look at it, I don't think we all want to go back out there and look at it again. It's a relatively large piece of property. To say the least. There are 6 lots they want to put on it. First one doesn't start till you're about 200. feet
Right,
off
but
the road.
I guess they were, but the concern appears to be at
Access,
the front end.
access to. the-
Right.
So I think the bigger problem is 50 feet in, not there. But anyway, that's beside the point.
Yeah, so conceptual does not require a butter notice, but the design review phase does. So if they come in with like a drawing of potential lots, that's in a butter notice situation. So just tell them, if the board decides they want to do it, just let them know that don't come in with any proposed plans. Just go put stakes if you want.
What do we have from him? What documentation do we have from him?
We have, other than what was brought before you at the conceptual in March, and that's it.
So we already have a conceptual.
I think it has lots on it though.
I didn't have lots, I don't think it
This is what was March. So
okay. So there were plans,
Yeah.
there are lots, so.
yeah, so there's whole
So given we have that information, where does that leave us?
As staff, I'm not real comfortable with the idea that the board is going out without receiving an application.
Right.
For one thing, that based on, especially after last night's right to know and board procedures, you end up with a bias before we even get an application.
Right.
That's a concern of mine.
The counterpoint is you're now creating precedent for people wanting to do this in the future.
Yeah.
Is almost a bigger concern for me.
Yeah, yeah.
Folks are busy, you have your own lives, you're volunteering, but to have you going out and spending time, and who knows what the weather can be when you get out there to do a site walk or something, you may not even get an application for.
So, everything okay?
Everything's fine.
Good.
So far the weather's been pretty good on our sidewalks. We've got thunderstorms.
the last sidewalk.
So rains, moderate sprinkles.
Oh, yeah.
So
I can't remember
I
the last
guess
time we had a
that leaves
sidewalk
us,
or
we
was
need a
it-
site application.
None this year.
Yeah.
As staff, I would recommend you.
Yeah, all right. So, okay, at this point,
But it's up to you.
No. no,
Application.
application.
Application,
Yeah.
everybody.
Yeah.
Okay, I will let them know.
What do we need application for?
Oh. You don't have the need to know.
So in short, we have a request to do, the planning board do a site walk prior to the receipt of an application.
This is for
Brown Hill
Eric Mitchell for the subdivision by Brown Hill.
Yeah, we don't do conceptual site.
This is what we
They can
just
come in for a
talked about.
conceptual meeting and tell us about it.
Right, which he did already,
Right.
but yes,
Oh, okay.
right. Yeah,
We want an application.
Just one thing I'd say to remind him is,
yeah.
Ryan,
Ah,
one thing I'd
Where'd that come from? Wasn't here earlier.
Guess it
Hey,
was.
Brian, the one thing on that, make sure they know that it's 30 miles an hour, not 35, because he kept saying 35 last time. I'm like, it ain't 35 on that road.
Okay. I'll let them know.
Okay,
That's all I have.
is that it?
I'm sure.
So now we're,
Minutes.
and we turn the chair back over to
All right. I think you guys would have been done.
8:18.
Yeah,
Dawn's back in the chair.
there we go. So we're supposed to leave a bumper out for a customer that drove 2 hours to get to the store. The cleaning crew, which is just a cleaning girl, one girl in the store by herself, guy banging on the door. You know, he's hoping to get a phone number. So she calls her boss and they call the cops and,
Okay, well, that's,
but yeah, it all worked
he
out.
got his bumper, right?
I do have to say that, I was able to finish that public hearing and make it to the store. Get in the store, find out what the guy wants, where his bumper was. We're carrying it out when the cops showed up.
Yeah.
You're live.
Okay, so anyways, review of minutes. We have,
The only thing that I have is, on, oh, actually, there are two. Line 29, the word artifact there was misspelled ARTIFACTS.
Okay.
It was spelled correctly a couple of sentences later, but not there. And then on page 2, lines 69 and 70, when the Macaulay, Sawmill Loop, when Matt Taylor noted that an email had been received from the applicant with a request for extension. I don't know. I mean, maybe this is exactly what he said, but it's written, the way it was written here says is they are still working on some things requested by the Conservation Commission during the site walk. Well, that is like incorrect because I don't think that's what they put in their email. I couldn't read the email through the Zoom and I couldn't find my copy. But basically they owe things to the planning board that are in the planning board, the zoning ordinance. So it wasn't, requested by the Conservation Commission. So I wanted to say they're working on, some
Something.
information
Okay.
and just leave it at that.
Okay.
And that's all I've got.
Well, you just cross off by the conservation system, some things requested during the site walk, if that's what it is.
Yeah, well, there were things
Or
that
you
they
could
knew
say the
they,
town. Sure, I mean, that covers everybody
or just say, yes,
by the board, town board,
Something requested.
something's requested.
or I'd say information requested.
Hmm.
I mean, some of those things they knew they had to do anyway, because they're gonna have to do them for DES when they seek a permit.
But so just change it to some things requested. Just leave it open-ended.
Some
And if somebody
things-
wants to know what it is, they can
okay.
listen to the
Some
recording.
things requested, okay. Yeah, the recording, which actually has no audio at that point.
Makes it even easier,
Oh, there you go.
because then we can never be proven right or wrong.
The only thing,
For me,
the only thing that I had was on 57 and 62. I didn't know if we should say that the highway is Interstate 93. I mean, I think most people, that's probably obvious that that's what it is. And then the other thing on 62, we were talking about notifying additional residents, even though they aren't direct abutters. I think we were specifically talking about the residents that are at the intersection of Dow Road and 3A. I don't know, I kind of thought we should just say that there,
yeah.
that's, those are the ones that we were talking about.
We were talking about the residences where Dow Road hits.
Yeah.
So change that to additional residences on the others, on the east side of I-93 and adjacent to Dow Road. Is that what you're?
Or just the intersection of 3A and Dow Road.
So you want to take out even if they're not direct abutters and put residents across the highway at the intersection of Dow and 3A?
Or even
We
just
notify
take-
additional residents at the intersection of 3A and Dow Road.
See that application.
Oh, good.
For your application.
Does it include getting rid of the giant blank wooden sign that just sits there with crap blowing off the whole time?
That was
Or
one of the
any
things we
other-
were gonna work on.
Any other, yes, are there any others? Vote on it in
Okay, motion to accept the minutes as amended.
a second.
A second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye,
Motion to adjourn.
Aye.
a second.
Who's in favor of that too?
Everything worked out.
Yeah.
That is bumper.